My name's Richard Hughes. I was born in Birmingham, England in 1974. I currently live in London. My studio's in Bethnal Green, East End, and I live slightly further out near the forest. The appearance of some of the things I make, they look like you wouldn't want to really touch them without gloves on. I don't mean that in a handling art way, in a sort of that they look like you'll catch something off, especially if it's like beds or old clothes, things like that. There is something slightly repulsive about it. But to then inject that with an element of fantasy, I think if I can get the balance right between those two components, then that's when I sort of feel something's successful, really, that there's equal elements of sort of beauty and repulsion, if that makes sense. But and so it's often about trying to find that balance, and whether the beauty is in sort of a moment where the piece reveals itself to you, or whether it's just in realising that it is a fake and that it's been quite painstakingly made. I do like to sort of, to balance that initial disgust with something that, a sort of a delayed reaction that offers you something more, really. So, although, initially it might be that the things look vile and they look like they could almost crawl away if they look so infested, but then to also have a revelation of some sort. I'll often, one of the other ways I work is to include a sort of a hidden image, or maybe an image from a sort of something previous that was previously relevant. So maybe a cultural movement, or it might be some album artwork or something that seems to have had a previous use and was at one time very relevant and has now become not so. And it'll be that kind of thing that might reveal itself in the work. So rather than being a revelation of something divine, like the face of Christ on a piece of toast, rather than it being that, if something is revealed, it's normally something that's slightly more disappointing. So I often think that the things I choose are very personal to me and my location and the stuff I see, but the more I get to travel now, go around, you realise that they are quite universal kind of things, that wherever you go in the world you're going to see. There'll be regional variations on type and form, but a lot of the stuff, it could be from, anywhere in sort of, 21st century. So I do like to, I suppose with in relation to the show, the title, the sort of the ethos of the show, there are elements of sort of, being aware of how tiny and how insignificant we are in the big scheme of things, and yet there's so much sort of shared understanding and shared experience, and that makes the work sound grander than it's meant to be. But I do think now that I'm more aware of those things, the more that I get to see how the work travels and how it can be understood in different places, and it's not just about where I come from, where I grew up. It sort of makes me realise, that there's a lot of similarities. I'll collect information and I'll collect things, and it'll sort of get stored for a while until I can find. I'll see something I think that's usable, but occasionally it may be I see an object and it suggests another type of material, so there's that kind of transformation. I could make a copy of it by using another material, and there'll just be that level of transformation that something fairly disgusting could be made in a beautiful material, but be very, very similar, virtually the same. And other times it might be even sort of from when you're a kid and you wake up in your bedroom and a piece of furniture, for a split second it becomes something else. Or you'd be those sort of situations where visually things start to take, just for a moment, can take on characteristics of something else. Sometimes there'll be moments like that I can then sort of transfer somehow into the things I'll make. I feel that in the context of this show, that notion of sort of producing your own world as an artist, or whether that's sort of producing your own aesthetic or a certain type of object or whatever, I think it's only recently I've started to realise that like I say, when I was younger, I decided that artists are able to make their own world. When you'd see sort of art books and you'd see everything laid out of what an artist has done in their lifetime, and you're able to sort of, attribute certain things to a certain artist. That was something that was quite desirable, but I never really saw it happening myself. I didn't know how you got to that point, but I feel now that I've got sort of a body of work I'm fairly proud of, and I feel is ongoing. I feel like it does feel like I'm kind of, producing, I wouldn't say I'm producing my own world, but it is a bit like that. You sort of, the things you make, I kind of, I guess I kind of make fantasy objects. They're very much based on real things, but there's always an element of fantasy and of finding kind of beauty or joy in really mundane stuff, like things being revealed to you by accident. And so it's kind of got to a point where friends will kind of text me messages, and if they see things in the street and they'll say, "This looks like one of your things," and that's kind of good that it feels like it's. I think it kind of mirrors the world in some way, but it's a slightly mutated form of that. And within the context of I think it's got these sort of alien qualities to it, but there's something that's very much anchored in the everyday and it's familiar.